Welcome to At Ease with Cooking. I'm Bonnie Kershke, your host. European holiday treats with old world charm and taste are reminiscent of Christmases past in those far-off lands. Fortunately for us, most of the recipes for those treats have been kept alive because they've been passed down through the generation as part of a country's holiday traditions. This evening, our guest will be preparing some of those special European holiday treats, beginning with mincemeat pies prepared in the English tradition by Gladys Meinz. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Bonnie.
So nice to have you
Thank
with
you.
us again this evening. Now, you're going to make some mincemeat pies for us, but first we've got to make the mincemeat. So why don't you tell us all of the wonderful ingredients that are going to go into that?
Okay. First, we are going to use 2 pounds of beef suet, 2 pounds of dark raisins, 2 pounds of golden raisins, 2 pounds of currants, 2 pounds of brown sugar, 1 pound of fruit cake mix, and 10 large Granny Smith apples, the juice and rind of 2 lemons, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of cloves, and 1 teaspoon of allspice, and a cup of rum.
Ooh.
And if you would rather not use rum, then you can substitute apple juice.
Oh, great. Well, with all of these great ingredients, this is really going to be delicious. I'm going to be very anxious to try this. Now, you have done something with your raisins and your fruit cake and your apples. What did you
I
do?
put it all in the Cuisinart and ground it just a little.
A little
the
bit,
raisins,
okay.
the currants, and the fruit cake mix I ground just a little.
And did you do each one separately?
Yes.
Each one
Yes.
separately, okay. And then the apples, did you do those in the food processor
Yes, I
too?
did.
Oh, great. That's a real time saver now,
Yes,
isn't it? You don't
yes.
have to get out the hand
The old cranker, yes.
Yes, right. Well, how do we start?
Okay, first we're going to start with the 2 pounds of suet.
Now that you just go to the grocery
You
store
go
and
to the meat market.
meat market, okay.
You buy it from the meat department.
All right.
Then we're going to put in 2 pounds of golden raisins.
This is going to be so wonderful.
2 pounds of the dark raisins.
This is going to be enough for quite a few pies, isn't it?
Oh yes, that's quite a few.
You can have them all through the holidays that way, can't you?
2 pounds, yes, because it keeps for a long time. 2 pounds of currants. The 1 pound of fruit cake mix.
Get those out of your way.
2 pounds of brown sugar.
And you need a really good-sized bowl here. I think you've had this bowl for
Many
years and
years.
have made a lot of mincemeat using that bowl.
I'm going to mix this up a little now before we add the apples and the other stuff,
Okay.
because this is getting quite full.
Looks like it builds some muscles for you, won't it?
Build some for somebody.
Now, when you make mincemeat pies in England, do they make the large pies or?
Oh, we do both. We make the little individual pies and then also the large ones. You have, in England, we can buy the mincemeat pie tins for the individual ones.
Yes, and you
The
brought some
tart,
of those along
yes.
that we're
Just
going to
to
be
show,
able to
you know.
see. Yes, but there's a way that we can do it when we don't have those little tart pans.
You can use a cookie sheet.
Just a regular.
Cut it
cookie
out
sheet.
with a cookie cutter and use a cookie sheet.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it looks, and it's starting to smell so good. And it's a little bit
Very
hard to
stiff,
stir
yeah,
right
yeah.
away. It takes a little bit of time to do it, but it's well worth it.
Okay, let's put the lemon juice in, make it a
Little bit easier.
liquidy. And the lemon rind.
Okay, take those for you. Usually people will buy this at the grocery store and you really don't know exactly what's in it. But this is a way that they can have homemade mincemeat that they'll know exactly what's in there.
And it's all good stuff that's in here, so.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to get way to the bottom and get the suet
Get
all in
everything
there.
all mixed up together, yes.
And this is, I always do this in a either a big plastic bowl or a crock bowl. Don't do it in an aluminum because you're going to keep it in this bowl for a week.
Oh, all right.
You're
So,
gonna leave
okay,
it,
yes, and we wouldn't want it to be anything to be reacting with the aluminum.
No.
That's a very good tip. Now, you mentioned we're going to keep this in this for a week. Where are we going to put that?
It doesn't have to go in the refrigerator. It can go in a cool place. I usually put mine just in the basement.
Okay, down in the basement. Those yummy apples. That all nicely mixed. About how much does this recipe make?
It makes 8, 10 jars. I use the mayonnaise jars with the screw caps on, and you can, you know, they work fine because it doesn't have to be, you know, processed or anything. You just put it in the jars and keep it in the refrigerator when you've.
After that first week,
Yeah.
then you bottle it up and keep it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, but for the first week, you undo it, take the top off. You know, I covered mine with just a dish towel, and then I'm going to add the spices now.
Okay.
Okay, the cloves and the nutmeg and the allspice.
Wonderful spices.
And the salt. And the cinnamon.
There we go. So many good things in this mincemeat, and it's starting to mix easier now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
You
then
get a
that-
little liquid in it in the apples and it goes better.
Right. But it's best to mix it up first before you put those apples in. A
Oh
little
yeah,
bit,
a little bit, yes,
Little bit.
because it's
Oh, it smells so good with those apples and those spices. Just wonderful.
now we're going to put a cup of rum.
Okay.
Like I said, if you don't want the alcohol in there, then you can substitute apple juice for it.
And that's the dark rum. Okay.
Yes.
Is that ever going to give it a wonderful flavor?
And then each morning when you stir this, or each day when you stir it, if you think it looks a little dry, then you either take out your apple juice and add a little more, or take out your rum and add a little
And
more.
a little more of that.
And
So then every day you have to make a point
every
of
day you
stirring
stir it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That is looking so good.
Now, Bonnie, I'm going to let you stir for a second,
All right.
if you don't mind.
Nope.
Because
Oh, that's a heavy bowl.
it's,
It gets a little, you need a little help there, or you have to rest a little bit.
yeah, it can make your arm ache.
I want to be sure we get all of those raisins broken up. Then after it's set for a week, then we're going to put it in the mayonnaise jars
Yes,
and then put it in the refrigerator
yeah.
until you're ready to use it. Now, after that week, could you use it at that point?
Oh, yes.
So, and you just store the rest of it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it.
And it'll keep for months. You don't have to do anything special with it. It'll keep.
Okay. Great. Well, I think we're getting this pretty well mixed now.
We've got all the suet mixed up at the bottom. That's
I think we've got it all from the bottom. Yep.
That's good.
It doesn't look like there's any suet left down there at the bottom anymore. So then we're going to here's a little bit. We'll mix that in. This is the size container that you'll put that in, right? Uh-huh. That's okay. And then we're going to show them now with some pastry how you're going to make the little mincemeat pies.
okay.
Great. Just keep mixing a little bit here. Now we're going to be using this mixture right here, but this should set for a week before you actually do use it.
Yes, it should. Well, you can use it before, but you know, it's not as good.
It's just not as
this
quite
way
as good.
the goodness gets all through it.
Oh,
You know.
great. And this
Now-
is your pie crust recipe.
Now my pie crust I made at home.
Okay.
And for the pie crust, I use 1 1/4 cups of lard and a teaspoon of salt and 3 cups of flour.
All right.
And then I mix that all together with my hands really good. Then I beat up 1 egg, add a teaspoon of vinegar and 1/4 cup of cold water.
All right.
And I stir that in with the flour and till it gets to be a ball.
All right.
I'm going to have to move
And
that
we
just a wee
we
bit.
will include that pie crust recipe
Yes, we will.
with the actual mincemeat recipe. Oh, it looks like a very nice dough.
Except it's sticking to the rolling pin.
Well, that's typical, isn't it? And we do have our warm lights here tend to soften things up a little bit more than they would be in your home kitchen. That looks beautiful.
We're just going to make a few of these and just show
All
you
right.
how we do them with the pie tins.
Mm-hmm.
I take a cookie cutter.
Okay. And I'm going to pass that over to you so that they get a nice view of that. Some of the specialty stores around the Twin Cities do carry these pans, so if anyone is interested, they can call up to those stores and find out which ones do carry them.
They're just jam tart tins, you know.
Okay.
That's all you do for that.
All right.
And then you put a teaspoon of, now I'm going to use this.
Yes.
Normally I wouldn't do this. I'd
Normally
use-
we would be using the one that had set for a week. Right.
But just use 1 teaspoon.
Uh-huh. Okay, I think we are starting to run a little bit short of time,
Okay,
so
well, what you
perhaps
do
you
then
can just
is
show
just-
us how to
Just cover the one.
cover the one.
You need a
That's
little
right.
bit of
Just
something to wet
liquid
it.
there. Okay.
And then just go like that and put the lid on it. And if you don't have one of these pie tins, you can do the same thing on a cookie sheet.
And that I'm going to move the cookie sheet over to you and just show how we can do one of those on a regular cookie sheet. It's nice to know that you can re-roll that crust too.
Oh yeah, can many times.
Great.
You can use it right up until the last speck. And then just take another spoonful
Little
and
spoonful.
put on. Don't put any more than this on because if you do it'll boil over and
Okay.
Make a mess
Yeah.
around
All
it.
right. Okay. And then when you're baking those, what temperature do you bake them at, and for how long?
425 degrees.
Here, we can probably take a couple of these little tops here.
Sure. Need a little something wet so it sticks on it.
Oh,
And then
and
just go around like that. And
there's another one. Now, do we have to make any slits or anything in these?
yes, we're gonna. Yeah.
Okay, we'll make a little.
I usually just poke a fork in it and
Oh,
just so it lets the air out.
really easy. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this over to you, Gladys, and we're going to move our wonderful bowl of mincemeat mixture here because I have got some terrific things for the audience to see. There is a piece right out of a full-size mincemeat pie, and here we have a whole platter of our small mincemeat pies. And some of these you made just on the cookie sheet, and
Yes.
some you made in the pie tin.
And you can tell the difference.
Oh yes, yes, you can see a little bit that these are the ones that were made in the tart pan, and
Yeah.
these were the ones just on the cookie sheet. And then you just sprinkle this with some
Powdered
powdered
sugar.
sugar. They look marvelous, Gladys. We're going to really enjoy
Good.
trying those later. And I want to thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're very
sharing
welcome.
your mincemeat pie recipes with us. And coming up next, we have Erica Urban, who's going to be preparing a German Stollen for us. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Bonnie.
Nice to have you with us this evening to prepare Stollen for me. And I know I'm not pronouncing that right, so perhaps you'll give me the correct pronunciation.
You're pretty close. Stollen?
Stollen. And now this is very popular in Germany during the holidays,
Yes,
isn't
it is. Yes.
And is there just one recipe, or are there...
No, I think every family has their own recipe, but they are the official versions, like the Tiroler Stollen, Dresdner Stollen, Leipziger Stollen. But this is just a plain Christstollen. This isn't anything specific.
Okay, and so everybody's got their own, so I suppose there's a little bit of mine's better than yours, and that
Oh,
going on.
yes, yes, definitely. I might be able to tell you about that a little bit later if we have time
Oh,
yet.
great.
About my brother visiting and etc.
Okay, why don't you tell us what ingredients will go into our Stollen?
Okay. Now this is 3.5 cups of flour, 3.5 to 4 cups of flour. You might want to hold back a little bit in case it turns out, too hard. You don't want to add too much.
Too much,
so
yes.
you can always
add more.
Exactly.
Right.
Half a cup of sugar, half a teaspoonful of salt, and then 2 eggs, half a cup of milk, 2 teaspoons of 2 to 3 teaspoons grated lemon rind, a cup of ground almonds, 3/4 cups of diced citron and chopped a little bit, 2/3 of cups of raisins, and half a cup of currants. These are the golden raisins, by the way.
Oh, yes, they look
Then-
beautiful.
Then you need half a cup of butter or margarine, and some powdered sugar in the end for sprinkling. Also, a couple of tablespoons full of butter to brush the Stollen after it gets out of the oven, and powdered sugar to
Oh,
sprinkle.
and then you put that on top after it's all
Right,
baked. Now, you've
right.
got some yeast here,
Also,
too.
yes. We better not forget about the yeast. And I dissolve my yeast in 1/4 cup of warm water. And these are 2 packages of plus 1 teaspoonful of dry yeast.
Okay, so we used a little bit more than just the two packages, right?
And I also add a teaspoonful of sugar and 1 tablespoon of flour to that.
Okay,
So-
and we can see that we've been proofing this yeast, and you can see that it's good yeast, and the
Yes,
temperature was right because
it's-
it's just been bubbling up there. Oh, that's
Yes, it is.
great. Okay, now where do we go from here?
Okay, now I devised my own method, and you may want to use your own. I also tried another method lately with cream butter, and that worked real well, but I've only done it once, and I don't want to take a chance.
Oh, sure. So this is your standard way that you've always
Yes,
prepared it. Well,
yes.
great. That's what we're interested
And
in.
I melted my butter,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm going to add you don't want to have it too hot, because you don't want to curl your eggs after you add your eggs. On the other
Right.
hand, you want it warm enough so it will mix well with after the cold milk and the cold eggs get added to it, you know.
Okay.
And then you add the yeast mixture to it. So why don't I add the milk to it now?
All right.
And I'm going to...
And that was a half a cup of milk.
Yes, it was half a cup of milk. And I'm going to add my 2 eggs to this.
Okay.
And now I'm going to use my old-fashioned rotary beater.
Yes, you're one that you can always depend on, even without electricity, right?
And, well, sometimes I don't think it's worth getting a mix out. I have one with a stand, you know. And I guess we got our butter a little bit brown. I'm not used to an electric hot plate, so normally it isn't quite as brown as this. But it is not going to hurt the taste any.
Okay,
So,
great.
But when you have when you're at home at your own stove, you can probably avoid that. So that's pretty well. Now I'm going to
Add your yeast there.
yeast. Yeah, that's.
Oh, and that's just working
Yeah, look at
great.
it. Make sure to get all of this.
Yes, get all of that in there. Here's a
And the
little
spatula.
spatula,
yeah,
rubber
that's what I had.
spatula
The
for
little
you.
one.
There
That's
you go.
looks like. just the right size. There we go.
Do you like to make a lot of this during the holidays for your family? I'll take that for you.
Yes, I usually make at least 2 batches.
At least 2 batches,
and,
sure.
And then I will divide one into 2 little loaves, and usually I have somebody to give it to. Or maybe 3
okay.
batches, and or maybe one just for taking to work.
Or something like that. So in other words, you would take your whole recipe and just cut it in half and then form your loaves, so 2 small ones
Yes.
instead of 1 large.
Yes.
That's a good tip.
Yes, and also my husband is extremely fond of stollen or any of kind of yeast bread, and what is the word, snuff? Snuff up.
Oh, he likes to eat it a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
he gets into it, and it doesn't take long, and it's gone. Okay, now I need to add my sugar and my salt to this, and stir it well.
Mm-hmm. Get all of those dry ingredients mixed together.
Mm-hmm. Except I'll add those later, because I found that it doesn't mix very well if you have them in there right away.
Oh, all right.
But except for the lemon peel, now that can go in now.
Great. That lemon peel smells so good.
Yes, excuse my fingers.
Oh, yeah. Fingers were invented before utensils. We all use them. That smell good.
Okay, so now I'm just going to pour this mixture over it.
Made a little bit of a well there, didn't
Yeah,
you?
right.
Uh-huh.
And, try to get all of
Might
it in
get
there.
all of that in liquid in there.
And now I'll just stir.
Oh, great. I can smell the yeast now, too.
Mm-hmm. I like the smell of yeast, don't you?
Mhm, yes, it's very good. All of the wonderful smells during the holidays. There's cinnamons and yeast and lemon and almond and just great smells.
Yes, I think the real thing, and not the you can get all this without the potpourri and
Right.
spray. You don't need a spray. See now, I'm going to work this flour in.
Okay, I'll
Yes.
give that a
Oh,
little,
thank you.
it's a little bit slippery on the counter.
Mix it in as much as I can, and get the spoon. With the spoon before I start kneading it.
Okay, now, and
But
you're going to
try-
start kneading it. So
Mhm,
I will
but-
bring up
Okay.
the board that you're going to knead
Now, if
on.
I had more time, I probably would go a little bit more, beat it
Yes,
with my
yes, because
spoon.
we are limited
I-
in our time here.
Right, but I also now want to add my raisins and
Okay, you want the
and-
raisins first?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much what order you put these on. At least I don't think it does.
Okay, and I'll give you your currants.
Well, maybe I should mix these a little bit first and
Mhm.
before I add more.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
And diced citron. I should really have a spoon ready here for this, but I keep on using my hands.
That's all right.
But I will be anyway when I start kneading it.
That's
so.
right. You're going to use your hands then, aren't you?
Okay, and I might as well put these in right away too.
Okay, and I
these
think
are blanched almonds, by the way.
blanched
You
almonds,
probably
okay.
noticed that.
And what we're going to do, Erica, is we're going to let you show how you knead, but we are not going to have enough time to show the length of time that you will need. So perhaps you could start showing us how you would gather that up and knead for us, because we are
Okay.
running a little bit short
okay.
on time.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, I do it first, usually start out in the bowl because
Yes,
it
you have to-
contained
Yes, it's a little bit more confined, isn't
Right,
it? It
so
won't
we don't
be
have
going all over the
stuff flying
counter
all
for
over the
you.
kitchen.
Right.
So, and
Now you have to let this, once it's kneaded, you have to let it rise. And how long does it rise?
Well, it usually about a couple of hours.
Okay.
But you know, it's I find it a little unpredictable unless you have, you know, exactly the same temperature, room temperature, and your liquid is exactly the same temperature, which I'm sure you
Okay.
could do, but I'm not that precise.
Okay.
But this other recipe that I mentioned, that only takes about an hour. So, so
And then after you let it raise, then you have to punch it down, and then you have to form it, correct?
right. Well, it punches itself down because you're going to quickly knead it again, you know.
Oh, okay.
And even just the shaping will punch it down. But I don't let my dough rise a second time. At that point, I will form my loaves and then let the loaves rise by
Okay.
about a third.
All right, and then how long do you bake it and at what temperature?
Okay, now I preheat my oven to 425 degrees. And after it's preheated, then I'll put it in and let it bake at that temperature for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to turn it down to 350 degrees and bake it for another 45 minutes.
Okay.
And then you have to kind of watch it, you know.
So it doesn't
Yeah,
get-
you
yes,
want
get
it.
to-
You
Okay.
want to watch your color, and also, but if it's kind of dark already, then but it isn't, you know, not the time yet. You may want to check and prick it.
Yes,
See that
just
and
to
make
be
sure
sure
it's
that
done.
that is
So,
thoroughly done.
yeah.
Then you take it out of the oven, you let it cool.
No, before I let it cool, I brush it with melted butter, plenty of melted butter. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with powdered sugar.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, why don't you just show us real quickly, perhaps this one isn't the one that has
Right,
been kneaded
this
and
is-
has risen, but we are very, very short on time.
Okay,
So maybe you can just take and show us exactly how you form it.
I've prepared one ahead of time. 'Cause, so at this point I would sort of just quickly knead through it again and maybe have a little flour, extra flour on hand.
Okay, because
Yes, okay. Just have a little. And I would form kind of an oval loaf, which I would flatten.
and I think we can kind of see that on
Yeah.
the finished
Can I-
products.
Yeah.
We really are very short on time, Erica.
Okay,
We don't really have too much time.
So then I would roll it and fold it over.
Fold it over.
No, you can either fold it this way and this way, or just fold it once.
Fold it in half. And that's what you've done with these right here, right?
But if you fold it this way and this way, you might want to secure your dough with a few toothpicks so it doesn't pull apart.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you fold that, and I'm going to tell our audience that they would like a copy of this evening's recipes if they'll send us a self-addressed, stamped business-size envelope and mail it to the following address, being sure you do include the title of this evening's show, which is European Holiday Treats Part 2. We'll be happy to get those recipes to you. Well, we're back with our delicious mincemeat pie, our mincemeat tarts, and our 2 loaves of our stollen. And we are really going to have a great feast here, gals. Thanks so much for coming and sharing your recipes with us. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And thank you, too, for watching. And we hope you'll tune us in again next time for At Ease with Cooking. Happy holidays!
Happy holidays.